The note inside this plastic box, which we will read in just a little bit, is a canon event from my high school days. It is probably the representation of the most disappointment my parents ever felt towards me. And I'm actually shocked I found this. And I had no idea where it was, and I came upstairs to look for it. And I said, if I can find it, I will make this video tonight, because I really wasn't feeling like making this video. I went to move something that was in my way of where I thought the note was. And when I moved the thing and put it across the room, I looked down and this box was sitting on top of the counter. And I said, okay, let's do it. I'm also workshopping a little bit of a song. So if you don't mind, I'm going to run it by you guys. Tell me what you think of the jingle.
Some of it is embellished. If you weren't there, please do not be jealous. I'll get you up to speed. Listen up, cause it's story time with me. Red means no. Red means no. Story time or red means no. Yeah. Most of this is real, some of it is embellished. If you weren't there, please do not be jealous, cause I'll get you up to speed. Listen up, cause it's story time with me. Red means no.
AI is a terrifying thing. Here's the story. I was a junior in high school. I ran cross country. And if you've watched my other video about shaving my pubes, I'm sorry that all of my cross-country stories deal with private parts. Is the bottom a private part? Yes, it is a private part, and I have hard evidence of that because of this story. It should have been private, and it was not. The story I'm going to share with you today deals with a Monday. In fact, it was probably the only day this could have ever taken place, and that is because it was a mileage day, and we were on a 7-mile run. You have to understand that our cross-country team was rather small, and it was a rather tight-knit group of individuals. We had anywhere from 10 to 14 guys on the team, and we were all, for the most part, friends inside of school and outside of school. We all got along very well. There was no rivalry. We were a great team. We worked well together. And on mileage days, usually people stayed together for the first mile or two, but when you're running 7 miles, everybody has to go at their own pace, so we usually would break off and go at different speeds after that. Well, this specific Monday, we were all running, and we had made it about a mile into the run. This was normally where people would go at different paces. It was a hot day. It was early September, and we ran without shirts. At this time, that was allowed. It would become not allowed because of me. However, at this time, you could run without a shirt. So that's what we were all doing. We all had cross-country shorts on, which are typically shorter than your average pair of shorts. Nothing too scandalous, probably mid-thigh. As we were running, I was in front of two, I don't even want to call them upperclassmen, because I was an upperclassman. I was a junior. I was in front of two seniors. And I was not, let's start here. I was not a kid who got in trouble often. I was not what you would call a bad kid or a good kid. I just was a teenage boy. And maybe sometimes that is the worst thing you could possibly be. After having taught teenage boys, I looked at those kids and I thought, this is what I was like. I hate myself. However, I was who I was. And all we can do about it is discuss it, and maybe somebody can learn from this, except you're probably all past high school if you're watching this, and you don't need to learn anything from me. The best way I could describe myself was ornery. At least that's what my grandma and mom always called me. I am in front of these seniors, and to be funny, to get a laugh, because there was no other reason to do this, I was always seeking a laugh in high school, I pulled my pants down. I mooned them. I showed them the plumber's crack. I don't want to demonstrate it for you on this channel because I would like this video to stay up on YouTube for the rest of the existence of the platform. And I don't know how much partial nudity they allow. So I will draw you a diagram. This is my whole butt. Sorry, let me make my crack a little longer. So this is what I'm working with downstairs. This is how caked up I am on a typical day-to-day average day in high school. This is what I did with my pants. As you can see, there is crack shown. There was probably 3 to 5 inches of crack being shown, but no way, shape, or form were my pants below the cheek. There was no bottom cheek showing whatsoever, especially nothing that could be considered, where the fecal stuff releases. It was just purely midline crack, just like slightly, it was like exaggerated plumber crack is what I was doing, and I mooned them in that manner, and they laughed because we're high school boys, and that's funny to be doing that out in public, I guess. And the famous last words from one of those gentlemen was, "I will give you $1." I'll say that again. I will give you a single dollar if you run the rest of the way with your pants like that. Now, to me, someone who was incredibly frugal, did not like to spend money, whose parents made him buy everything for himself, down to his yearbook and his letter jacket, new school shoes, cross-country shoes, you name it. I had to buy it for myself. I thought of a lot of uses for that dollar. And I thought, I'm not going to turn down $1 for something that really doesn't hinder my performance in this run. I'm not going to run worse because my pants are down. I'm not going to get in trouble for a little plumber's crack. If anything, it looks like an accident. You're on, buddy. So we ran. And the weirdest, most bizarre part is, even though it was about a 5.5 mile journey still to go, the halfway stopping point was at that senior's house. Because it was such a hot day, the coach did want us to stop halfway through the 7 miles and get a drink if at all possible. So we stopped at his house. I walked into his house with my pants like that. His mom was home, and his mom saw it, and she said, "Pull your pants up, as a mother should, as a mother would." I didn't listen. Everybody was still laughing. I, turned around so she couldn't see it. She said, "I'll give you," we told her what the deal was, $1. She said, "I'll give you $2 to pull your pants up right now." I said, "That goes against the entire principle of the arrangement that I had with your son. I'm not going to take you up on your 100% increase. I'm sticking to my original deal. And plus, his mom was never going to actually pay me $2. I knew that the kid would pay me $1. But, it sounds good on surface level that I would be getting double the amount of money, but she was never going to pay me. So we got our drinks, we got our water. She did tell me to pull my pants up. I did not listen, and we continued on this run. I should also note that this run was through a residential neighborhood for the most part, probably the most popular residential neighborhood in our city, the one that is most populated with young families, with young kids. We continue the run, and there is nothing abnormal until about 5.5 miles into the run. So we are over the halfway point, and a truck pulls up beside me as I'm running. At this point, we've all spread out. So I am by myself, just post leaving this residential neighborhood. The truck pulls up, and the dude was angry, like I had just committed a crime. And in some ways, maybe I was actively committing a crime, a victimless crime, a fairly harmless crime, a crime maybe nonetheless. And he rolls his window down, and he comes right up to me as I'm running. He's like driving next to me. He says, "Pull your pants up, young man," like screams it. And I was just like, I kind of got scared a little bit. I was like, and I gave him like a wave, and he drove off. I didn't pull my pants. Like, I'm not gonna pull my pants up 5.5 miles into a run when I've already, like, come on, you wouldn't have done it either. And I'm a man of my word. Had I pulled up my pants in that moment, I would have had to go to my friend and fess up to him and say, "I pulled my pants up. You don't owe me $1." And that would have just been a complete waste. So we finished the run. I get back to the school. I pull my pants up. I go home. All's well that ends well. It was fine. Nothing matters. Nothing happened. Everything was fine. I thought. I do not remember how many days had passed. I'm sitting in lunch with all my friends at the lunch table. The principal walks into the lunchroom, and he looks at me, comes up to my table. He looks at me points at me, says my name, says, "Come with me." Whole table does what all kids do. They laugh. They go, "Oh, you're in trouble." And they're doing it ironically because, like I said, I was not a kid who was ever in trouble. The only time post fifth grade I got in trouble from sixth grade to 12th grade, besides this instance, was in eighth grade when I was in art class and the art teacher was doing the same demonstration that he had done the 2 years before. I already knew what it was. This kid was playing with a Rubik's Cube and he put lotion inside of it so it would spin faster. And one of my friends said, "Oh, you lubed it up, did you?" And of course, that was hilarious. So we all started giggling. He sent us to the hallway and then two kids got in a fight in the hallway and we all got written up for it. And that was the only time I had ever gotten in trouble at school. My parents didn't necessarily care too much about that once I told them what happened. It was just embarrassing telling my parents that I laughed at a kid saying you lubed it up. But nonetheless, I did not get in trouble. So when the principal said, "Come with me," they all laughed, but they knew I was not actually in trouble. As I'm walking away from the table with the principal, under his breath, doesn't even like break stride or stop looking forward. He just says, "You won't be laughing for too long," which to that I laughed at because I thought he was joking. I thought he was like playing up the fact that I wasn't in trouble. I was like, "Haha, yeah, good one." It's embarrassing to think about now. So we get to his office and we sit down and he doesn't talk the whole way. So then I'm like starting to think, "Oh, maybe I am actually in trouble." And so then, you start replaying everything that happened that day. I was like, I legitimately don't know what this could be. So he sits me down across. I still can see it to this day. He sits in his desk. He sits me down across and he hands me this paper, which I will now retrieve from this thing, which ironically I think was in like my, like, it doesn't matter. This like held like a badge of something good. And then this is taking its, I don't, there's something there, guys. Some poetry or something. I don't know if you figure it out. It's not my job anymore. All right. So I'm going to read this to you, and I may also put it on the screen. He hands me this, and he tells me to read it, and then tells me, what are my thoughts. So here's what it says. "Dear Athletic Director, on Monday, August 29th, 2011, at approximately 4:15 to 4:30, I was driving northbound on Blank Avenue in the residential neighborhood that I previously discussed, with two adult females and my school-age son. We saw a group of runners jogging northbound on the same road as well. At the back of the pack," first of all, okay, you got to get a jab in there, a little bit of a low blow. Like, it's not enough that I was doing something stupid. You had to specify that I was the slowest guy out there. "At the back of the pack, we saw a young man's bottom, all of it, in parentheses," which I don't know if I need to get my picture out. To this day, I will die on this hill or this crack that all of it was not out. It would have been so uncomfortable to run with a whole jiggly cake, the jiggle cake that I have. So uncomfortable to have that flopping around back there. I could tell by the shirts that this group of students was from blank blank high school. Okay, this is another little bit of a fib because nobody was wearing a shirt because it was August 29th. It was hotter than blue blazes. I know some of those students, so I looked to see who the young man was. It appeared to be me, or someone who looks an awful lot like him. I was shocked. However, more importantly, at first I thought he was just sagging a little. Not to say sagging is okay either. I thought he would pull up his shorts when some of the cars passed him. This did not happen. In fact, all of both of his butt cheeks were showing by the time we passed this group of runners. His shorts were falling underneath his butt cheeks. Okay, we get it. You're lying. We get it. As we passed him, the front muscles of his lower area were even showing. Okay, so what she's talking about, I don't know if there's like a name for this. I'm sure there is in like female vernacular. I'm sure the ladies have a name for like whatever this, the lines that like, I guess she saw that too. In her rearview mirror, freak, why are you looking at me? I'm underage. As we passed him, the front muscles were showing. My mother and other adults were appalled. He didn't even try to pull up his pants as we passed him. I was embarrassed for all of us, including this boy and the school. That's just paragraph 1. I hope you take this seriously. I would like to remain anonymous, but felt compelled to tell you about this incident for several reasons. I didn't feel an editorial in the paper was necessary. However, I would like to feel this situation will be addressed with the decorum and seriousness it deserves. There are other witnesses, as several people were driving by at the same time we did, and this happened in a residential neighborhood, with children playing in their yards. Additionally, several of the guys had shirts on that said the school or purple shirts. This is not a good message to the community. Myself, or his look-alike, had no shirt on, that is true, and brown shorts. They were gray. I still remember the exact pair, that were obviously too big. They weren't. I just chose to pull them down for $1. He shouldn't wear those to practice again. I didn't see the coach, but I am not sure he could have seen this anyway, as I was running in the back of the pack. Once again, a subtle jab at my lack of speed. I just thought you should know about this incident. I hope in the very least the coach and boys discuss proper public practice apparel. This is an arrestable offense. Public indecency, I believe. Please don't forget this was a residential neighborhood. I know of other schools that have dismissed students from teams for this type of behavior. My kids are not in your school system or high school age, so I have nothing to gain from this letter. I just felt you should know about this incident so you could address it before someone did go public with it. Thank you for your time and efforts in correcting this young man's behavior. So I read that in front of my principal. And look, I'm a straight shooter. I don't lie. I'm not going to say I'm never going to lie. There are maybe white lies that I tell when things are not there. I don't want to say I'm never going to lie, but I'm not going to lie about something like this. I'm not going to lie at all if I can help it. I looked at him and I said, yeah, this is true. He's like, this is true. I said, yeah, this is true. I said, here's what happened. I told him the whole story. Mooned him. I'll give you $1. Okay. I said, this is where I stuck up for myself. I said, I don't think my whole butt was out. My whole cheeks weren't showing. I was definitely at the back of the pack though. Gosh. I said, this lady must know me somehow because nobody had shirts on. She recognized me. Like, this is somebody who knows me in the community, but doesn't have kids that go to my school. And she took the time out of her day to write this. It doesn't matter. The point is, I admitted it. I fessed up, and the principal said, okay. And he sent me back to the lunchroom and told my cross-country coach, and he called my mom. And so 2 things happened. We'll talk about the punishment from the school first. I got off easy. I got off fair for what it was, which was, I think, a very minor infraction in the world of infractions. The punishment was I was suspended for 2 cross-country meets. I had shin splints at the time. It was actually a blessing in disguise. I got to take 2 weeks off. The other punishment was we had to do a pool workout, which is hilarious because I was only one of 2 swimmers on the team. I loved pool workouts way more than I loved running. It was so easy going into a cross-country pool workout compared to a swimming actual pool workout. Half the time we just played water polo or we were treading water. So I got to do a practice I preferred, and I got to sit out 2 meets that I probably didn't want to run anyway. That was my punishment. That was great. It was also awkward because I think the coach and all the people on the team thought it was funny, but we all had to pretend it wasn't. But then I got home, and let me tell you, my parents are not strict. If I had to describe my parents, it would be stern, forward, reasonable. And when you don't get in trouble often, your parents don't have a lot of practice in disciplining you. So I got home, and there were 2 very important pieces of this, my mom and my dad. I could always tell that my mom thought it was funny from an objective standpoint. like, hey, here's this high schooler. He mooned his friends. He kept his pants down the whole way. Nobody really got hurt from it. Yes, it was a stupid decision, but did you really need to take the time out of your day to write a letter to the school calling him out? It's obvious you know him, so why don't you just go to his parents or his family and say, hey, look, I didn't want to go to the school with this and get them involved. Your son was doing this. Like, why didn't you try to handle it with us? Why did you have to make it a political school thing? Because that's what it is. I always think we do not know to this day, 13 years later, 14 years later, who wrote this letter. I have racked my literal brain trying to figure out who would be driving in this neighborhood with their younger son and two adult women who could know me by name. And I know it's a church connection in some way, shape, or form. It has to be. That's the only other way we would have associated with anybody outside of our school. I can't figure it out. So my mom was always upset. And this was just something I kind of picked up on, not something she said, because she was very stoic in all of this, that she was the adult and I did something wrong. But I could tell that, one, she thought it was a little bit funny, and two, she was annoyed that a family would go to the school because it just feels like there's ulterior motives there. My dad, buddy. My dad, like, I did this. If I had killed somebody and walked into the house, my dad, I feel like, would have had the same reaction. He might have been less mad if I killed somebody. I'd never seen my dad that disappointed in me. Never seen my dad that mad at me. Never seen my dad that just appalled. I mean, it was, do you know what you, I mean, it wasn't yelling. My dad's not a yeller. My dad's not an aggressive screamer, but he's a very much a, let's think about the worst possible thing that could have happened and then use that as a tool to make you feel bad. You know, you could have been on a list of sex offenders. Do you realize you're about to graduate and you're going to be going to college? And if you're on a sex offender list, what do you think? And you're going to look for a job and you have a job, but how are you going to get a job if you're on a sex offender list and you could have been reported and there are kids around? That's public indecent, all of that. So what was my punishment from them? I had a list of 7 things and I can't remember all of them. I know I couldn't hang out with my friends after school, which was the biggest thing. I mean, that was the biggest punishment for me. As we played basketball, we hung out like that. Like my friends, my core group of friends in my neighborhood, that was my childhood. That was me. That was my life. So that was a big deal. When I got home, I had to give my phone up, which it was an NV3. It's a flip phone in 2011. So I didn't really lose much in that capacity. I had to write apology letters to my coach, my athletic director, and my principal. I remember in that letter, I wrote, I apologize for what I did. I promise going forward, I will keep my head high and my pants higher. Like I wrote that in my apology letter. Let me say that again. I wrote, I will keep my head high and my pants higher in my apology letter because I thought it was funny. It is funny, but it's like, read the room, kid. Like now is not the time to be making another butt joke after this. My coach laughed and he's like, please tell me you didn't write this in the principals. And I said, I did. And he goes, oh my goodness, what are you thinking? My coach was great. Okay. He didn't hold any of this against me. I should ask him about this now. I got off easy, like because of my reputation in some ways that I wasn't a kid who repeatedly did things. And there were people on our cross country team who repeatedly did things that were much worse than this. And it's like, oh, you're getting trouble for this. Yeah, we'll just look the other way on this one. So I was lucky in that way, but I got a little bit of a stern, repercussions from my parents. But one of the funniest things, and I never did this. I never ended up doing this because I was so part of me was embarrassed and part of me didn't know how to go about this. But my parents wanted me to, as a punishment, spend my own money to buy underwear for the local men's shelter or like homeless shelter. And their reasoning was, since you don't want to wear yours, there are other people who need it. Something along those lines. So they wanted me to buy and donate underwear as a punishment, along with the other things. So I didn't do that, but I did the other ones. And that was the worst I got in trouble in high school. And it became a joke, as you would expect. It was nothing that I was ever like, oh, that's all, like, oh, that's awesome, I did this. Like, oh, like I was always ashamed of it. And still to this day, Like, I look at myself and I'm like, dude, like you did something so stupid to get a laugh. That was it. You wanted to make people laugh. So you did something stupid and you got the laugh. So stop. But then you wanted to do it for $1. So as we close, I will say, I got $2. He promised me $1. After all of this went down, I got in trouble. I got suspended, X, Y, and Z. The letter got written. $2, baby. 2 George Washingtons. Was it worth it? No, not at all. Not even the slightest. I hope you enjoyed story time. Come back because there might be more.